to why that's not wrong. We also implemented ethics training. Well, we passed a law that required ethics training for all elected officials. The county executive at the time didn't follow it, and I think he probably should have. So that was my time in the legislature. I also did a lot of small things in my community, but those were the bigger county-wide things that we focused on. Since January of 2010, I've been the chief of staff of the town of Brookhaven. I served, obviously, I worked for Supervisor Lesko, and I think it's probably fair to say that Legislator Romaine and I have a difference of opinion on the success of that administration or not. In that time, we've frozen taxes. We cut spending by 25%. We cut our capital budget by 30%. The workforce is decreased by 10%. Now, why do you do those things? You do those things because in the mid-2000s and the early 2000s, when this town got very big, it was because we had $30 million a year coming in mortgage taxes. This year, it'll be lucky if that number is $9 million. So when $21 million a year disappears from the budget, the government has to get smaller. We got bigger when we had the money, and for many years, we didn't get smaller. So in the past 3 years, we've had those decreases. And if you don't do those, you know what you get? You get what our sister town in Islip got, a proposed tax increase of 65%. Now, I don't live in Islip, so I'm not going to judge that, but I know if that happened in Brookhaven, people would show up to the town hall with pitchforks and torches. So
probably more than that.
So did I get into government to tear it apart? No. But what I do know is that when I talk to people at their doors, when I talk to people throughout this town, they don't have any more money to give us. In their own personal homes, they've told their kid they can't go to camp again this year. They decided they can't go on vacation again this year, or buy a new car. Not because they didn't want to do those things, but because there was just simply not enough money to do that. And I think the government has to act in a similar fashion. Now, moving aside from the budget, which we'll spend plenty of time talking about, development is a big issue that faces the town, and our quality of life. I'm proud that the Quality of Life Task Force, which is something that Supervisor Lesko initiated and I worked on for the past almost 3 years, fines against serial slumlords, serial offenders and slumlords are up 300%. Now, I think that's good, but I realize if the property next to you is a mess, that statistic doesn't mean much. So our work will always continue on that front. I'm also proud of the Blight to Light initiative that we implemented, the goal of which is to take our vacant commercial properties and redevelop them, rather than leaving them as vacant eyesores. And the perfect example that you're going to see in the next couple months, if you're familiar, in the Quorum area, at the intersection of 112 and 25, the old Quorum UA Theater. In the next couple months, it's going to be torn down and the whole property will be redeveloped on a plan that was worked directly with the Quorum Civic Association. And real quick, they always wanted a main street, but they realized that Middle Country Road is not a main street. So what they're going to do is they're going to link the entrance from Route 25 to the entrance on Route 112 and have an interior main street with stores on both sides. Is it the perfect solution? No. But is it much better and it give that community a sense of self and a sense of place? Absolutely. And it was a community-based plan. So just to address a few of the things that Ed spoke about. He spoke about, well, many things. I'll start with the landfill. He mentioned the sludge and the issue a couple of years ago. Just to be very clear, the one thing I disagree, well, we disagree a lot, but I think factually, he had mentioned that that plan wasn't discussed. There was that resolution was presented to the town board to enter into a contract, and it was approved 6-1. Now, this was material that at the time, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation said was legally permissible. There were reports, and they permitted it. When the problems arose, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation changed the permit, and as soon as the problems arose, the supervisor immediately called for the cessation of the acceptance of the material at the landfill. Now, the landfill is another big issue. Throughout this campaign, Ed and I have made lots of public appearances. And what I grow frustrated with, and I'm not just going to direct it at Ed, I think in any elected official, is it's very easy to tell everybody everything that you're against. I'm against this, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do this, and everything they did was bad, and if you like me, everything I'll do is good. But I think you have to also say, what would you do? If we're not going to accept revenue with the landfill, okay, we'll take that as tier 1 of the promo. We're not going to do things to accept more revenue. How are we going to pay for things? And at the same time, we're against all the cuts that we're making. So I think it's a very easy equation. If we can't cut anything and we can't raise anything, I would ask to provide some answers. So I'll give you what I think. Supervisor Lesko proposed 2 things at the landfill. He proposed raising the height 50 feet, and he proposed a temporary increase in material. The town accepts 1 million tons a year under its permit. of ash and commercial and construction and demolition debris at the landfill. The proposal would be to take 1.1 million of that material for 3 years. That could mean as much as $2 to $3 million in additional revenue for the town to help us during this very difficult time. The 50 feet, I think, is a poor idea. I think it's highly unlikely that DEC would ever approve that. I know that the community around it is solidly and wholeheartedly against it, and I don't think the town should pursue that. I think the other thing we can do, both for our environment and for our budget, is improve our recycling. There are municipalities throughout this country that have moved to something called single-stream recycling. And what that means is instead of putting the paper out one week and the plastic out the next week, you put them both in the can and put it out every week. And why does that increase recycling? Because there's one less barrier. You don't have to stack up the papers in your house. You don't have to keep all the plastic in the house. And municipalities have seen a 10 to 15% increase in recycling when you do that, which could mean $500,000 to $1 million in additional money that the town gets in, and it's also better for the environment. Now, we have to move with the waste management industry. That's going to lead us. Eventually we're not going to landfill things the way we do, so we have to be proactive with recycling and move forward with that as well. So, listen, occupational hazards, we could talk for a long time, but I am getting a cough, and my voice is going to go in a second if I don't take a drink. So why don't we just stop? I'll stop right now, and we'll start with your questions.